Hello everyone, and thanks for checking out another InfoSec Hub video. And today we're going to talk about endpoint protection. And endpoint, it could be your laptop, could be your desktop, could be your phone, could be any kind of device that you interact on a network. Could be the internet, could be internal, but that is connected and that you connect to other computers with, basically. So you're watching this from an endpoint. Even a TV is an endpoint to a certain degree, especially a smart TV. So there are three ways in which you can protect an endpoint. We're all familiar with antivirus. That's one of the endpoint protections that is around since the late 80s, early 90s. Think about McAfee, for instance. It detects malware, viruses, worms, Trojans, and does this on a signature-based. So each individual virus or malware has a certain signature to it, and that is loaded into the signature database. That's why it's very important that your antivirus software is updated, and they usually get an update overnight or every morning that you start up your computer. They're checking if there are new virus signatures available, and then you're protected again for that day, so to speak. It can scan your email attachments. It can even scan, for instance, the web pages that you load because your browser does a lot of the work. It can also check what your browser is doing. Trojans within software that you might download, it happened to be going like that. When you download something from a website that's a little bit shady, or maybe a peer-to-peer program, this is maybe a thing of the past because downloading is now it's still happening. But if you, for instance, download the operating system and it's a paid operating system, closed sourced, and some joker decides to put a malware or a Trojan inside of it, your antivirus can also scan the software while it's installing. When you have the folders and all the files on your computer, it scans all the folders and all the files, and that's what it does. Also during installation, it has the focus point on the installation and all the files that are being written to your hard drive. So antivirus does a lot. It's still relevant in 2025, I would say. Since we are more connected to the internet than ever, we also have EDR, which stands for Endpoint Detection and Response. It monitors threats on individual devices. It can, it's basically like Defender to a certain degree. And you can put it all within your tenant of endpoints, and it can scan your device. XDR is cross-platform. It is extensive detection and response. It takes a broader approach in integrating data from multiple security layers. So endpoints is one of them. That's what we focus on EDR, but also networks, cloud, email, everything that has the potential to infect your computer, take over a computer, install malware, all that kind of stuff. So we go to the methods, user signature based, we talked about this, behavioral analysis, threat hunting, and real-time monitoring. So it also, let's say for instance that you install malware and you don't know about this, it opens a certain port and now it starts connecting to a server. That's a certain behavior that happens on the network level that is known, and then it's detected, and this makes sure that this port is closed off. So who's ever on the other side cannot connect to your computer anymore. That could be one of the things. If you have multiple security tools, let's say for instance you have antivirus on your computer, you have Microsoft Defender, you have on the network an IDS and IPS solution, all of these security tools generate logs. All this logging is sent to a central place, and it can learn about what's happening on the network. It's not a SIEM, but it is extended detection and response. You can also say if this happens, if this case happens, this scenario happens, then this is the following automated steps that you should take in order to save the endpoint or make sure that there's no damage caused, there's no data infiltration, or we just close the connection to the potential attacker based on signatures as well. that's a way to do it. AV, baseline protection against common malware, viruses, spyware. Offers enhanced security by identifying, mitigating unknown and targeted threats. So this gives you more insights about known threats. Let's say, for instance, there is a 0-day or there is a vulnerability in SharePoint. Now we're going to monitor SharePoint and strange connections, and then act upon it. The scope of an AV, of course, blocking and detecting malware viruses, quite to the point. Monitors response suspicious activities and threats on individual endpoints. So endpoint on an endpoint, so really only a laptop, for instance. And this is a broader range of endpoints and networks. This could also be monitoring a network switch and see what kind of connections go through them. If you allow only certain traffic, like web traffic, which is on port 80 and 443, and occasionally you have to send some files over the internet using an FTP, then you have maybe only 4 ports in use. And you can block the rest. You will run into issues saying people, I cannot connect to this and that because it uses different ports, but you can have a network policy saying, no, you're only allowed to use these kind of ports because we only allow this kind of traffic on the network, blocking the rest. Could be set up in a policy and then implemented. So again, AV also locally, EDR locally, and XDR goes further. And it can also detect, for instance, when somebody jumps from an endpoint to elevated privileges, jumps to a server, then does some things there and jumps to the database server. It can really see how you're moving through the network. And those kind of patterns are also very important in detecting if you are under attack, if there are more, if there's, for instance, more upload, if there is logging into the network outside of business hours, using multiple ways to get into a user account or even an admin account, trying, and all these kind of things leave traces on the network, and XDR is there to sniff it out and prevent it, even if you're not there. So if this behavior occurs, then this XDR should close the connection or put the endpoint in general in quarantine or something like that, something to that degree. You want to make sure that the connection stops so the potential attacker or the malware can't communicate outside no more and cannot go back. So there is no way to exploit the endpoint, in other words. I hope that is useful, this video. So this is all about endpoint protection. Of course, this can all feed into the SIEM, the Security Incident and Event Management. These are all endpoint security tools that all produce logging, and this logging could be fed into a SIEM. And the SIEM is then part of the SOC, Security Operations Center. So that's basically how you see layered by layered how this could be implemented. Hope it's useful, and we hope to see you in the next video. Have a great day.